AEW has brought to the forefront of professional wrestling the importance and impact of long-term storytelling. From Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page to Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, and most of the feuds in between, AEW has displayed an elite, pardon the pun, level of execution and emphasis on long-term storytelling. My brother and I have been watching AEW since its very first show, All In. While we never anticipated its meteoric rise so soon, we saw its charm and potential from the very beginning and likened it to the mid-2000s of professional wrestling shows that we were more accustomed to. For me personally, the thing that got me interested and hooked on AEW from the first few months of Dynamite was the clear focus on feuds. The thing that impressed me more was that AEW wasn't shying away from the past of wrestlers that they were featuring, even if those pasts took place in other companies. Chris Jericho didn't act as if he didn't know who Jon Moxley was. None of the tag division acted like they didn't know who FTR were. The Elite's past in Japan wasn't ignored. The Lucha Brothers' past in Mexico wasn't ignored. Not only were they not ignored, they were embraced and used as tools to build the feuds these wrestlers would fight on. Naturally, what came out of AEW's first 2 years on television were not only wrapped up feuds but also planted seeds. When Jon Moxley became AEW champion, I remember my brother and I booking who we thought would be the next few champions, and it went a little something like this: Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, MJF, Jungle Boy, and a choice of a few heels after that. Mind you, this was before the unthinkable plethora of talent made the move to greener pastures. The long-term storytelling was so evident that we already knew Kenny and Hangman were feuding for the belt in the future. MJF defeating Hangman with the ultimate heel tactics would bring him in some major heat as if he needed any more, and Jungle Boy defeating him would elevate him to a whole new level and be the payoff for MJF's Inferno heel run. MJF and Jungle Boy were already being teed up as two of the main young top talents in the industry. But it wasn't just those two. Even back then, we identified 4 major youngsters that the company was showing us from the very beginning were the future of AEW. The 4 Pillars. Not the first time that this terminology has been used in the world of professional wrestling. The 4 Pillars of Heaven represented an era in All Japan Pro Wrestling history that spanned a decade between 1990 and 2000. According to Dave Meltzer's match ratings, the 4 Pillars of Heaven have more 5-star rated matches among them than any other group of wrestlers in history. But they didn't elevate All Japan Pro Wrestling on their own. They had major talents around them at all times to assist. Major names, established names, and other young emerging stars. It was just the right mix. But they were the pillars. They were the core. And they were what the company was built around. Although I'm no expert by any means on any of the 4 men's field of work or All Japan Pro Wrestling in general, they are highly regarded for one specific element of their matchcraft: storytelling. It's evident that the naming of the 4 pillars is not only a symbolic one, but one that comes with heavy expectation. AEW and Tony Khan are deliberately telling us, in more ways than one, that the company's future will be built off the back of these 4 men, the 4 pillars of AEW. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. Charismatic, 2-time Diamond Dallas Ring winner, one of the top heels in the company and the industry. Head of his own stable with an impressive win-loss record, an absolute heat magnet, and one of the highest wrestling IQs in the company. Better than you, and you know it. Jungle Boy. Popular, one of the most over baby faces in the company who's performed admirably when fighting for championships, but just hasn't put it together yet when it matters most. He's shown success in both the tag division and single division, showing diversity. Darby Allin, enigmatic, former TNT champion, mentored by Sting, and chosen by CM Punk to be his return match. And Sammy Guevara, Showtime, mentored by Chris Jericho, always impressed the crowd in the ring, and now TNT champion after defeating the most dominant TNT champion to date and one of the most dominant champions in the world at the time in Miro. The 4 pillars were only a thought in our minds, a seed that some of you may have noticed and others didn't. That was the point. It was just a seed which was subtly planted but not yet watered. Until now. With MJF verbally acknowledging and proclaiming these 4 young talents as the 4 pillars, the seed is finally being watered. And now with merchandise coming out, the 4 pillars is well and truly alive. MJF has already brought up his own win-loss record against those competitors. He has wins over both Sammy Guevara and Jungle Boy, and has now begun a feud with Darby Allin that I personally expect him to win. But this is only the beginning. The opportunity of storytelling this has created is bountiful and will be for a while. These four will grow together. Their characters and individual paths will only add layers and history to their stories. Their interactions will only have more depth and meaning the more they meet. They won't always be locking horns. They have other things to do too, but when they do, it will be special. 5, 10, even 15 years from now, whenever two of the four pillars do battle, it will be must-watch television. How will their head-to-head records end? Will they ever team up? Will we see a 4-way battle between them? Who will be AEW champion first? Who will be the last one out of the 4 to win it? Who will have the most reigns and who will have the longest? Who will go down as the best? Will MJF have a winning record against Sammy but struggle to beat Jungle Boy? Is Darby Allin's kryptonite MJF, and does he excel against Jungle Boy? With each match between these pillars, you add complexity, you add a story, you add some history. You intertwine these 4 men and you elevate them all at the same time through each other. Similar to how people look back and compare the members of Evolution, or even more recently The Shield, we will always be comparing the 4 pillars of AEW. However, not because they are former teammates, but instead because they are forever adversaries, forever rivals, and MJF has drawn that line in the sand by acknowledging it, by speaking it into existence and laying down the gauntlet. I, for one, am extremely excited for this. I love long-term storytelling in any media. I love history. That's why I'm such a big fan of One Piece. It's why I've come to love New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's why I love when a random statistic is thrown in when I'm watching 2 teams competing in any sport. I love that these 4 individuals are now part of a subsection within this roster that has its own name and own meaning. And more importantly, I nearly love all 4 of these wrestlers. Okay, I'm not a huge Darby Allin fan, but he has grown on me. I'm just not really into the skater vibes. The thing I love the most is that right now, more than ever, AEW has so many moving parts, so many wrestlers that need attention and care taken with their characters. Tony Khan is juggling at least 15 main event caliber talents, and he needs to make sure he doesn't drop the ball on any of them. And he hasn't forgot about the young guys. He hasn't forgot about the future. None of these 4 have been lost in the shuffle. In fact, it's quite the opposite. These 4 are being launched, and while Jungle Boy and MJF may not be in that list anymore of the next 5 future world champions, I know that when they do eventually reach the top and finally taste that world championship gold, they will be strong enough pillars to carry AEW into its next future.